well, and even pedestrians having to bear the biggest brunt of it all. But that will be in our second hour. But in this first hour, a lot is happening in the political sphere and in the social cycles as well. 12 counties have actually threatened to down tools, that is the health workers, if they are not paid by tomorrow. That is the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union said that their workers will down their tools beginning tomorrow if counties will not have paid. I hear that KBC was able to pay yesterday, and Kisumu has already talked to their medics, but it's a dire situation, and especially if we talk about a mass action and if we talk about an industrial action at this moment. That is not the only thing that is happening in the country. Of course, there's some good news. The government yesterday did announce that the cost of unga will be coming down, and this is one of the issues that the Azimio Brigade have brought on the table in regards to the bipartisan talks that was agreed upon by the head of state and Azimio leader. We will be talking about how that matrix changes, since Azimio want an expanded discussion, but the government says, let's look at electoral matters and let's do everything via parliament. Well, a lot is happening, but allow me to also rope in my panel of experts. You will bear me witness that also in the country, all the agendas, the Kenya Kwanza, since they took over office, they have said that they're going to do a lot of issues, and especially when it comes to things that touch the mwananchi. How is the industrialization sphere in the country? Well, joining me on set, we have Honorable PS Dr. Juma Mukwana. Dr. Juma is the PS for industrialization. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you.
Just next to him is another doctor, is Dr. Isaac Harun Hassan, who is a public policy analyst. Thank you indeed so much, gentlemen, for making time for us. And maybe to start with you, PS, the government did announce that we have a lot of pressure in the country, and the taxes, the cost of living is a little bit high for Kenyans, and Kenyans, as we had talked about earlier on, Kenyans are quite tired. But yesterday we had a relief that the government is gearing towards a reduction of the cost of unga. This is something that is going to be quite welcome in the country. I would like you to touch on that.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe just to talk about pressure. The pressure we are experiencing is not a Kenyan pressure. It's actually a global pressure. And if you look at it, I have seen people saying, oh, this government is taxing people. And I looked at the last figures. The budget we are implementing today doesn't belong to the government of President William Ruto. We are implementing a budget that was done by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. And the targets that we have in terms of tax collection were not set by this government. They were set by the other government. And I think I saw 2 days ago, like the collection was falling short by 600 billion. And so the impression you get is, oh, you are being taxed, overtaxed. If the targets were set by somebody else and the collection is falling short, how do we get this narrative that somebody is being overtaxed? Because if you are being overtaxed, we should have overshot our targets. So I think that, and then if you look at, for example, the cost of food, and I come from Western Kenya, where we grow a lot of maize. There are two attributes to the cost of living: food and, of course, fuel, because fuel affects manufacturing, transport, everything else. Since this government took over in August, we didn't have any rain. The short rains failed. This is the first rain we are having. So honestly speaking, without sounding paranoid, how do you expect to bring down the cost of food if you have not produced food? And you can import, but that is a drop in the ocean. So the real opportunity we have since this government took over is the rain we are having now. And everybody knows, even those who are asking for the cost of living, they know that without rain, because our agriculture is 99.9% rain-fed. So if there's no rain, we can't talk about bring down the cost of food. And so with the rains that you have now, I'm sure if you now travel along Nairobi-Nyeri Road, the cost of Sukuma wiki now is down for sure. And even with ugali, I mean, if you give it another 2 months, other things will get ready, some beans, some soya, something. So really, that's how you bring down the cost of living. And of course, for fuel, you know that the government has entered into a government-to-government agreement with UAE and others, and the fuel has already landed. So it's just a question of time. So I see that the conversation is not sincere, because if we really live in this country, you can't talk of bring down the cost of food when there's no rain. I mean, which miracle are you supposed to? I mean, unless you are Jesus Christ, who is going to turn stones into bread, I don't see that happening. But now with these rains, we really have an opportunity. And what we have told the farmers is, let's take advantage of this rain.
From your perspective, there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
Not just light, a lot of light. With this rain, you give it 2 months, there will be no cost of living, because the cost of living is fuel and food. If you sort the food and you sort the fuel, because fuel affects everybody and everything that we do, really, I'm not saying that Kenyans will get to a point where they feel like this is where we should be, but compared to what has been happening, we will be doing a lot better. We will have at least food, and if we bring down the cost of fuel, the industry, travel, manufacturing, everything will come down, and I see that happening. Maybe I'm not up to the point where everybody will be comfortable, but I think it will be a lot more. But I also want to say that what is happening here is really not unique for Kenya. It's a global phenomenon, and we all know that.
And of course, I'm quite sure a lot of Kenyans would want to know exactly what you are doing in your ministry when it comes to industrialization. Where are we despite the many challenges vis-a-vis also the Kenya Kwanza promises? But Daktari, also the cost of unga as announced by the government, and even I saw on television yesterday one of the supermarket chains had actually talked about, yes indeed, we are selling it at about 150, 157 shillings. This is something that will be quite a relief for Kenyans, if you ask me. And being a relief, let's also look at the counties, the doctors themselves, the medics, the nurses, they haven't been paid. And I remember yesterday, the deputy chair of the health committee said that we're talking about 12 counties. There are other counties who have already paid their medics. So the county governments should prioritize salaries as one of the ways to avert such a strike. I would like you to touch on those two things.
Right, thank you very much. First and foremost, pleasure meeting you, PS.
Thank you.
I think you have started it very well in terms of the cost of living and what the government has on their table, which is a very good thing. In terms of cost of living, in order for a government to ensure that the country or the population in their country lives a decent life, they must have a long-term plan in terms of food security. Kenya is not a poor country. Kenya has a lot of resources. However, Kenya has switched its focus on importation than actually local product. And now that our PS is here for industrialization, one of the things that Kenyans will always prefer, including businessmen who run the country, when they are told to import maize, is when they prefer than having maize from the farmers and put a lot of money into their pocket so that they are able to do quite a number of things that can benefit the country as well as themselves and improve their livelihood. Having said that, a number of things needs to be put in place. One, as the PS has put it, it is time for Kenyans to capitalize on the opportunity they have now. That is the rain. Rain everywhere. In my village, Takaba has never had floods. Yesterday, the last 2 weeks, we have been handling issues regarding floods in Takaba, and we were trying to see how best we can help those people who have been displaced after having the severe effect of the drought, where they lost all their animals and they were IDPs, but now they got floods. So these are new phenomenon in terms of the climate changes that we are experiencing. And if then at one time rain comes like this, if you remember very well, our meteorology department projected that the rain will be very minimal. And all of a sudden, it started pouring crazily as if it was going against them. That means it is not even easy to speculate the weather pattern. That has become a very difficult thing. And as the PS put it, is because of the global phenomenon. It's a challenge that every other country is facing. So basically, that is where we think we should focus on. Then number two, I think demonstrations and those other things don't bring food on the table of anyone, and doesn't reduce the cost of living. If we have already agreed to have a bipartisan discussion, although the bipartisan discussion is focused mainly on electoral reforms, which probably could be the main issue that each and every politician is trying to eager to fix it, we may not want to dwell on cost of living. The cost of living, I think, strategically, the way the government has focused, the way they have started thinking of issues related to fertilizers, reducing the cost of fertilizers, meanwhile trying to reduce the cost of unga, so that the people who are farming are able to eat as they continue make their products success. Therefore, I think in terms of cost of living, the best way to go is the way that has already been proposed by the president. And I think the best thing that we want to get best out of it is the issues of electoral reform, and let's see how the electoral reform will going to work. Even if people talk about this electoral reform, some of us know very well these electoral reforms, every other election, there's always electoral reforms. We don't have something which is cast on stone. I don't know when we will going to have a very independent electoral commission that is able to execute its mandate with no fear from either current government or the losers of the government or the opposition, the so-called opposition.
Okay, and we'll look at electoral reforms a little bit later.
Yes, now in terms of the counties and the doctors and medics' salary, I think it's unfortunate that if there were resources going to the counties, unless the Treasury has not released completely any resources, priority is to pay your workers, because the workers are the cornerstone of the process in which you can govern that county. If you don't pay them, I mean, these are what do you want them to do? They have children, they have families, they need to feed them, and it's unfortunate that those governors who have not taken priority, who have not prioritized payment of their medics and any other workers in the county, it's unfortunate. And I think it is time for people to call for. I think there was a lot of discussion in regards to health and the county. Health is not something that we can compromise. And if it is something that we cannot compromise, then it calls for a drastic decision. I think the PS and the other government agencies should look at exactly how best can we provide health services. In UK, health is not provided by the counties. They also have counties. The health is provided by the national government. Essence is that we don't want to have a disconnect in management of patient. If you don't manage your patient very well, just imagine the people who work in the ICU and they have not got their salary for a month or two, and they go slow. What happens? We will lose all those patients, because those machines, life-supporting machines, will all collapse. And that will be losing life of Kenyans. And we can't gamble with Kenyans' life. Okay. I think the best thing is that governors should always prioritize paying their staffs. Then all other things come next, including the like of projects that they love to do, the development projects, and mainly is because of certain factors that is of interest to the governors.
Okay.
Thank you.
And PS, looking at the current political environment that we are in, I would like to have a sneak peek on the role of manufacturing. I remember the last time I saw you in a public event, you were at the Athi River Mining, where you promised that the government would construct an industrial park, which would also bring down the cost of materials that are used in building. Of course, enhancing the industrialization and also boosting the affordable housing project. I would like you to touch on that.
Thank you. I think let me put it in perspective. And Kenya, if you look at it regionally, within the Eastern Africa, we are doing a lot better in terms of manufacturing. So you can say almost without a doubt that after South Africa, we are the second largest manufacturing hub or in between here within the Eastern Southern Africa. And so we are doing our best. But at the same time, we have to note that 80% of all the items we use are imported. So we are importing 80%, and we are making about 20%. Why? Because also as a country, as the Nigerians used to say, you blame the fork, but also blame the chicken for wandering too far. The Kenyans love foreign. So you'll find that if you give Kenyans an opportunity, they love foreign items. And so part of the challenge that we have is how do we get people that want to appreciate what they produce. The other issue that I also want to say is that at independence, government had this idea that government could do manufacturing, and I think we did that quite a bit. So if it is milk, we invested in KCC. If it is tea, we invested in some aspect of that. If it's pyrethrum, the government put up a factory. If it's paper, we had pan paper. And you know about the story of all the sugar factories, Chemiril, Mohoroni, Mumias, Nzoia. If you look at it, and we are approaching this from a very practical point of view, those factories played their role in terms of laying the foundation for manufacturing and employing our people at the time when we needed them. It is very, very clear that the role of government in industry is to be a good referee, is to provide the right environment for manufacturing. And if you look at it, where we have tried as government to do manufacturing, we don't have a very good story because a lot of our factories are going through a lot of stress. And so what is the future? And if you look at the world, the US or China, there's no country that has industrialized by having government build or involve itself in industrialization. So you go to the US, as huge as that economy, or Europe, there are no government factories. We only have private sector factories, because the role of government is to provide a level playing field. It's a referee that will allow everybody, create conducive factors that will allow people to do manufacturing. And so that is where we are focusing on the manufacturing environment. And also the way we are looking at the future of manufacturing is that it will be personal and small. I don't think that looking at Kenya, we are going to have huge factories employing 20,000 people. But the way other economies have come up is that you and me, you do macadamia, I do some tomato paste, another person will produce barbed wire, another one will produce nails, and all these people will be all over in the villages, so that we can do what we call buy Kenya, build Kenya. One of the things that we are promoting as government, because of what I said, Kenyans prefer foreign things, is that we are promoting government institutions by law are required to buy up to 30% of all their procurement on goods made in Kenya. And so in fact in my department, every quarter, all government agencies have to report on how they have complied with the 30% buying. So that's one of the things that we are doing. We have also put up a policy on local content. Local content means that, okay, we may not be able to make a full car or a full motorbike, but there are some things you can make here. The brake pads, batteries. So, for example, if you look at a motorbike, the way we are saying, if you import the whole motorbike, you pay an import duty of 25%. But for items that you source locally, it's 10%. So you can reduce your taxation by making your motorbike to have more of local content. These frames, carriers. So that's what most of these manufacturers are doing. And if you're importing a knife, for example, maybe you can import the metal part, but the wooden part you can make here in Kenya. That's what you're trying to say. So if you import a whole knife, then you pay 25%. of duty. But the part that you import, if you're making, we have a lot of wood here, you can make the handle from here, then you reduce your taxation of even the metal part to 10%, and then you add the local. And that way you also then support other people that want to go into that space. And so we are having a very robust conversation in that space. And the two things that come to my mind that we are promoting, one is the idea of industrial parks. And industrial parks, this coming financial year, this government has put 4.7 billion. That's from the national government, and the county governments are putting another 4.7 billion, so nearly 10 billion. And the idea is that we are saying, for me and you, when people think of factories and manufacturing, they think big. You buy land, you build a factory, you buy a machine. We are saying not everybody can do that. So what we would like to do as government is to go to each of these counties. The county governments, we are partnering with them. They provide the land. We build sheds up to 100 meters square, 200, 1,000, depending on what you want. And then I can go and start to make nails in one of those sheds. Somebody can start to make macadamia. Another one can do avocado oil. Maybe I want to do milk processing. So the whole idea is that as a Kenyan who wants to go into manufacturing, you don't need to buy land, you don't need to build a factory. We are going to avail for you manufacturing space. And then we provide you common, electricity is provided. So you don't need to bother about how electricity will come, water is provided, effluent management. And within those parks, we want even to bring in banking, we want to bring in KRA, if there are taxation issues, if you want to export, we can bring in customs. So that we make it easier. So this is a common manufacturing facility. So you come in here, yours is to put your little factory and start to make what you want to make. And the electricity, the water, the internet, that's taken care of so that we can all go into that space.
Yes, I'm looking at a situation where this is something that is going to rope in a lot of Kenyans and a lot of young people. And it's a noble gesture from the government. But looking at the industries that you've just mentioned, the factories that you've just mentioned earlier on, you could say that they are failed projects. What is the government, the Kenya Kwanza government, doing new from what the previous regime did with manufacturing? Because there are a lot of industries have sunk, and we do not have any signs of actually reviving them.
Actually that statement is wrong. The factories that have sunk are government factories. I come from Western Kenya. Mumias has failed. Njue is failing. But Kabaras Sugar is doing very well. West Kenya is doing very well. So what is happening, what is failing is government factories. I mean, look at cement. Simba Cement or National Cement has if you look at it, 4 factories. Their capacity over the last 2-3 years has more than doubled. Cement production, but what's happening to East African Portland Cement? It's closed because government was not set up to manufacture. If a spare part goes, if a factory breaks down, as government, I have to follow the procurement law. I have to advertise, I have to... It takes 3 months to get a spare part. That's not what Savannah Cement or Simba Cement. So if you think about it, if you look at that dichotomy, if you look at the sugar factories, for example, we have Ramis Sugar. It had died. It was a government project. But the private person took over and it has done well. So what we are saying is, really what we are trying to say is government will play the role that it's good at playing. And our role is to be a referee. Okay? But in the past, we've tried to be both referee and player. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think we have failed as players.
All right.
So that's
and when we come back, we will touch on if at all we can privatize. I also work at the courts, and the case of Mumias Sugar and the privatization issue has dragged on, and there is a lot of back and forth. If at all we can decide to privatize these industries, can we maybe have a lasting solution where we have a player, and a referee as well? Hold the thought.
okay.
Indeed, you're watching KBC News Tech. Thank you indeed so much for making time. We have the PS for Industrialization, who is Honorable Juma Mukwana, and also we have Dr. Isaac Hassan. They're taking a short break, but we'll be right back with more.
to say to make it right, 'cause I need your arms around me every night. To me your world.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
I'm Njue. Thank you indeed so much for keeping it KBC. We are looking at the state of the nation and a number of issues that have arisen in the last couple of days. And now joining us on set, we have the Honorable MP for Tigania West, Honorable John Mutunga. Honorable John Mutunga also is the National Assembly Agriculture Committee Chairperson. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
And let me just throw you in the deep end. The rains are here. We had a deal that we can even go and farm in another country. That didn't quite go into fruition. Where are we exactly as a country?
Yes, we have the rains, all right. What matters is the levels of preparedness to make use of the resource, the rain, the water that is so plenty right now. Our time we've been talking about harnessing the surface runoff. Kenya gets a lot of water through rainfall, but it goes away, sweeps away our soil, and that's it. We need to invest a lot more in surface runoff harnessing, so that you can use this water for later on what is called supplementary irrigation. Supplementary irrigation is when crops cannot go all the way. They need a bit of water. And we lose our crop towards the end of the season because the intensity of the heat is so high, the water in the soil is low, so they wither out, and therefore most of the people register zeal harvest. That's one of the things. The other one is that I don't think Kenya doesn't have land. We have sufficient amount of land to do a lot of work if we actually got sufficient water to irrigate. We look at Israel, they don't have better soils than we have.
Yes.
80% of Kenya is asal, all right, arid and semi-arid. But it doesn't mean that arid and semi-arid land cannot be used for irrigation. And it doesn't mean that the land use, the economic use of the land right now is optimized. It is not optimized. There's a lot that we can do with the soils that we have. All we need is water. And there are two ways of getting enough water. One is to the stream water or the river water that comes from the mountains. We dam it, we do upstream damming. The Indian Ocean doesn't need our water. We can use those large dams, and the government, I think, has got serious investment plans in that direction. We have huge dams, about 500 or so, that are targeted to be done. The other one is harnessing surface runoff, which we have not done a lot. Kenya has an irrigation potential of more than 1 million acres. Directly, what we call natural potential is more than 580,000 hectares that you can irrigate without raising the water, without having to pump the water anywhere. Natural potential. But with a bit of adjustment, you can do more than 1 million acres. And there was an effort in Galana Kulalu, which was targeting some ADC land for about 1 million acre irrigation scheme, which did not go very well. We need to plan well. We need to look at many parameters. If you look at the water that we were supposed to use, the Athi River water, is a lot more seasonal than permanent. And it also, there is a lot more that happens upstream on that particular water that needs to be looked into, so that we can probably, do damming upstream, and then we do some kind of management of the water itself, so that we have sufficient amount, and then we regularize the use. And the investment in the irrigation itself needs to be better managed. I know we lost a bit of money there, but I think it is still, we should not lose hope. It is possible for us.
So as the agriculture chairperson at the National Assembly, you do still have hopes that the Galana Kulalu, if well managed, if well resourced, we can harness that and actually do away with the issue of insufficient food in the country?
Absolutely. We have the land in, I've been to Galana Kulalu personally, and the land there is fantastic. It's very good land. The soil is very good. It's very arable in the sense that it is deep soils which only need water. And of course a bit of management of the nutrition aspect of it. But let me tell you something. Galana Kulalu could be a major turnaround point for Kenya. If we use that land for, appropriate we engage appropriate management of that land. We rationalize on the kind of work that we are going to do. And I want to tell you that there are investors who are interested in putting money into Galana Kulalu and then producing maize and selling to us. So the government just needs to open up and tell them, okay, come, let's have arrangement. Instead of thinking about land elsewhere, you see, there's something called food security. Food security, you are secure when you can lock up your own things. You're only food secure if you can make sure you grow food as much as it is possible. You can also buy. But when you go and invest in another country, and I'm not attacking anyone in this case, and you invest your money there and so on, and then supposing they say no. They're not allowing you to live with that food. You buy. So you double invest. I think it is important for us to look at food security in the context it is. The access to food, the cost of the food, the quality, the nutrition aspect of it, all those things need to be put together when we discuss food security. So production is one of the things we should not give up. We have huge potential in terms of labor supply. Okay. We have a lot of people who are not employed in Kenya, and agriculture is a major absorbing point for employment.
And I want you, Doc, to pick it from there, because he has talked about even the young men and women that we have a lot. The government wants to prioritize projects, and especially when it comes to food sufficiency. And the government has a monkey on its back, that is the Azimio demos. And they have said that after Ramadan, that the demos will continue. This is something that is going to affect government, just like we saw in the 2-3 weeks that there were mandamanos. I would like you to touch on that.
Right. First and foremost, I would like to slightly add some small point into the industrialization issue in the country, which is also part of the things that can change the whole landscape of employment and job creation. I think, as the PS put it, 80% is import, and it's only 20% that we actually export. That means it's not actually the Kenyans. He mentioned that Kenyans love foreign things. No, our policies are wrong. How are our policies wrong? In other countries, you are not allowed. You are not allowed to buy things from outside. And if you must buy, you will pay for it dearly. Taxation is high. If we increase taxation to all imports, Kenyans will going to love their own products. Number one. Number two, if we increase taxation and we know this will going to help, then we only need to educate Kenyans on what he has put it very well. Buy Kenya, build Kenya. Very simple, and they're going to do it. The other thing is, of course, encouraging foreign industries to establish their production plants in country. That will going to create job for our young people. We are able to get even their own product within our country at a cheaper price, and we are able to utilize our raw materials that are going into West. And sometimes we export our raw material outside, and it comes back to us with a hefty price. What do you call export processing? Zone. It's an example of that. Much of the suits we love and put on is actually produced here, taken out of this country and it comes back with a brand name. And we buy and we talk about the brand. We could make our own brand and utilize our own products. And if they must go out of the country, when they are coming back, they should be very expensive. It's only Mheshimiwa and the PS, perhaps, who can buy at a particular time, and they have the choice of doing it. But I think
they opt for Kenyan products.
They opt for Kenyan product. Therefore, I think that is where we need to move a bit fast in terms of policy and ensure that those things are put in place. But in terms of farming and in terms of what is coming up, youth are misused always. I don't think if demonstration has ever benefited anyone in the society. In a proverb in my homeland, they say, a young man makes his parents cry whenever he goes for war. It's the only thing that makes parents cry. What happens? Your young man is misguided, he goes into the battlefield, he dies, and the parents remain with nothing other than crying and knowing nothing, in terms of what they can do next. So it is not a very good way to do. Picketing and demonstrations in a modern society, not our way, is always welcomed. And our constitution, 37, says that we are allowed to do demonstration and picketing. But the way we do it, how does someone leave his house and then pick weapons? And then he says he's demonstrating. In other countries, people demonstrate with placards, and they don't go into people's property. They go to the main centers in the cities and walk along the highways so that they are able to express their interests or their needs, whatever they want the government to action. But ours is totally different. If you look at our way of doing our demonstration, that I mentioned last time when we were here, that is hooliganism. Hooliganism is not demonstration, and I think this government should take a firm action. We don't want that. We want our youth to go back to our farms so that they make use of this period so that we are able to have a good production or good yield after the season is over. But now if we waste their time on here, people will be killed, properties will be destroyed. That will not be something that we're going to encourage. Let's leave it with Kina Mheshimiwa as they already proposed and make their own bipartisan discussion. We know there are a lot of brains who are in parliament, unless they don't want to use their brains. If they want to use their brains, they are able to guide us and lead this country to exactly issues that are being pointed out, and they can come with a solution. Having said that, what they are saying is, we are not saying there's nothing actually. There's a problem. Whatever they are saying, all of it is not something that is not acceptable. But the way they are doing it and the way they want to express their anger or the way they want things to be done, I think is not the right way.
All right. And they say they're going to start the Mandanos after Ramadan. We're going to get to that. But the PS, earlier on, before we went for the break, we were talking about how we can resuscitate some of these industries that have fallen. They could provide a lot of jobs for the youth that do not have jobs in the industrial park, plus the Viwanda Mashinani. I'd like you to touch on that as well.
Thank you. Let me just step back to what Honorable Mutunga was saying. And one of the things that has, that's why when I find this debate of reduce the cost of living is a little bit difficult, because the maize, I come from a maize production area. The maize we have now, until after this rain, the fertilizer was 6,500. That's the fertilizer that I used to produce my maize. I have some maize. If you ask me, how do I reduce the cost? This is maize that I've already produced. So if you're demanding that I reduce the cost of my maize, when I bought a bag of fertilizer, 50 kilos for 6,500. But then we have a different challenge. Now that we have a lot of rain, the challenge that we run into is that, and because people have had a bit of suffering, what's going to happen? I was in Western Kenya about a week ago, and everybody's on the farm. So I see a bumper harvest, and then we create a different problem. You see what happens then is that once we overproduce, then we oversupply, and then we'll push. So then the demand will go down and the price will also go down. And then what it means is that when we all overproduce, then the price will be so low that we can't make the money we invested in to produce. In other words, we undermine profitability of that farming. And so what happens? So you end up with maize that you're selling below your production cost. You make a loss. And then what happens with that? The next year, the farmers will stop producing because they didn't make money. So part of what we are working on is to say, how do we mitigate that? And that's why we have a warehouse receipt authority, that now you can produce your maize, you don't have to sell it, you can store it with somebody until the price is good, waiting for good demand, because remember our production is seasonal. And so the issue that I'm trying to say here is production alone in the farm without linkages to processing, to manufacturing, will not work. So we need to add value to our produce, not just maize, not just macadamia, not just avocado, but we need clear linkages, and that's where the industrial parks come in. The other issue that I want to say here is in terms of import. Yes, already those of you who have been watching the last 1 week, we are doing public participation to put up something called import levy. And what we are saying is, yes, if you want to import, please import, but we will increase the duty on your imports. And we will use that levy to create what we are calling an industrialization fund. The same way that we have a CDF, the same way that you have a women fund, a youth fund, we want to create an industrialization fund, because industrialization is very expensive. And so what we want to say is that if you want to import something that we can produce locally, we will put duty there in such a manner that we collect that money that we are. So the more we import, the more we create a bigger industrialization fund. And if you want now to go into manufacturing and you want to buy machinery or you want to expand your manufacturing, there will be a fund that you can borrow from at lower level, 3%, 5% for 25 years. Remember, manufacturing is a long-term process, so that we can. So we already completed public participation on the import fund, import levy, that will then support the starting of an industrialization fund that will support Kenyans that want to go into manufacturing. The other issue that we also want to say is beyond the industrial parks, this financial year we've put 600 million, what we are calling Viwanda Mashinani.
Yes.
And the Viwanda Mashinani is a government grant.
More or less like a cottage industry?
The same. Once we build the industrial park, we don't want them to remain empty. So Mheshimiwa comes from Meru. So if we have an industrial park in Meru and you have a young person that wants to go into manufacturing of maybe Miraa tea or Miraa juice, he can be given a grant of between 2 and 6 million, not alone. And he can buy a machinery and he can start to make that choice and start to market it. So the Viwanda Mashinani is this financial year, coming financial year, we are targeting 200 young people across the country. We will give you, so we will apply, we will advertise nationally, people will apply to say, I want to do maize in Soy, I want to do macadamia in Embu, I want to do Kamarapika in Karisa, I want to do meat production or maybe serum production in Isiolo, and we'll give you a grant to do that. So this is the idea of Viwanda Mashinani. And also on the same, this is a government grant, 600 million. We've also received an offer from Equity Bank that they are willing to put 250 billion
into that fund.
Into that fund for people that want to borrow for manufacturing. This is a specific fund, and we are very, very excited. Last thing I want to say about industrialization, this year alone, this is March, we've had very interesting engagements. I know that we had the Kenya EU Business Forum at Radisson Blu, and we had nearly 500 investors that were here that want to start manufacturing. Not just in Kenya, but you see the way Africa is working. If you know, Europe doing intra-European business, Europe to Europe is about 70%. In fact, in other words, countries within Europe do business with each other up to 70%. Within Asia, they're doing it up to 45%. Within Africa, you'll be so surprised that Africans doing business with themselves is only 15%. But luckily, we have this thing called the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now, Africa is going to be a common market and a common area for us to trade. And we want to position Kenya as the launching pad into Africa. So that's how we are marketing it. And so part of why we have been attracting a lot of interest from Europe. We just had the AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce meeting about a week ago. That was at Oleserene, and we had about 1,000 investors. Moderna is already here. They want to make vaccines for Africa. And that is so they want to take is that you can use Kenya as the gateway to Africa. And so we have a lot of interest from Chinese firms. We have interest from Indians. I know we have an Indian exhibition in November, the manufacturing coming to Kenya. And so, as I've said, our role as government is to provide the role of a referee, a conducive environment for manufacturing, both for young people, so as you can see we are supporting young people that want to go into manufacturing, but we'll also welcome large-scale manufacturers that come from either Europe, UK. We already, this week, you know that the American team is here for trade negotiations on a number of issues, apparels, textile, even Google and Microsoft. They all want to come here into Konza City to use Kenya as their regional office for Africa, and that is something that we are encouraging. So I think that, for me, the situation looks quite optimistic, and I think that what we are doing to ourselves, demonstrating, we are basically blocking our opportunities. I see that we are the focus. There is a stampede. There is a lot of interest. So I think what we are doing in this Maandamano is really sabotaging this opportunity. It's like somebody has seen that if you actually gave this government 5 years, you will not recognize Kenya. So we are actually trying to prevent Kenya from moving, because you can see the potential, you can see the interest, you can see that the way this president and the government is thinking is not the usual way. If you give President William Ruto 5 years, I see a lot of potential.
All right. As we give the government 5 years, Dr. Mutunga, the PS has mentioned that matters value addition could really help us in the agriculture sector. I would like you to touch on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, value addition is key. And especially in the agricultural sector. You see, right now, agriculture is still the major employer of Kenyans, even without so much of value addition. And I would like Kenyans to know that we are not really better than Uganda and Tanzania in terms of agri processing. They are ahead of us. You see, sometimes we say, Kenya, we are doing so well, and we feel very comfortable about it. We are not. So we need to go back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? One of the things we need to do carefully is embrace this idea of warehouse receipting. We did a law on warehouse receipting, and the intentions were very clear that we would like to have people store their products before they sell, depending on the pricing regimes at that particular point in time. With warehouse receipting, it is possible for regional aggregation of products from the farm. And that regional aggregation stimulates for agro-processing. It is odd for a process that to be put in place to only go for 6 months. And then the rest of the 6 months is closed. You lay off people, the machines do not work, so they go rusty, and so many other things happen. So when an investor is coming to Kenya, they would like to know, or when a Kenyan wants to invest, they like to know that they will have raw materials throughout the year. And that is why warehouse receipting as a law is there today. Now, there are some disruptions that we need to be very careful about. And without appearing political, let me say that the Constitution is very clear when it comes to what picketing is. What we are doing here is not picketing. Picketing is physical and unarmed. And if you look at what happens in Kenya, it's really not picketing, it's hooliganism. And hooliganism is contested, I mean, is a crime in this country. When police acts on crime, that is hooliganism, we see some offshoots and some outbursts that we shall go to The Hague. I think it is important for us to say that we should not threaten the system, the government and the security system of this country. They are called law enforcement. They are not called law requesting people. They are not supposed to request people.
They're supposed to enforce.
They are supposed to enforce law. Okay. And the IG should be left alone to do his work. Because I saw a video where somebody was actually challenging a policeman into combat. You see, This guy is in uniform, all right? He's a policeman. You look bigger than him. Why do you have to challenge him into combat? That's not picketing. That is hooliganism. That is trying to bully someone.
All right.
So if such a policeman takes a gun and shoots him, will you say that somebody has been murdered?
All right.
I think it is very wrong. So we need to do
other things that we are supposed as a country also to look into. But let's have a quick break. When we come back, we will wrap this conversation up. Thank you so much.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Wewe nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kile umefanya. Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini?
So alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
Hapa hizo na lori. Repeat. Hapa hizo na lori. Bia wewe.
Kini piga magoti. Panta. Lori. Chake.
Ngoja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa pale exactly 5 minutes enda. That's the maximum time they're going to go serious. Go serious.
She lost her son?
The boy just disappeared while she was wounded, and they left her for dead.
Why don't you escape? Go away from here, away from Malena and from everything that harms you. If you don't do it now, my dear.
Oh, Fermina.
Now, I didn't even have to ask for your hand because you were practically given to me.
I just need your help, Professor. I need you to help me get over what I am feeling.
Those who are talking. Caicedo and Jairo. I should have known.
All right, welcome back to KBC News Tech. Let's wrap this conversation. If you've just joined us, I have three guests. I have Dr. Mutunga, who is the Tigania West MP. I have Dr. Mukwana, who is the PS for Industrialization. I have Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is a policy and governance expert. And before the break, we are looking at the state of the nation. And when it comes to food and agriculture, each and every Kenyan is taxed. And before we went for the break, we were looking at how we can make value for whatever we have, and especially when we have the rains right here. And we are looking at the mandamanos. They cannot be quite good when we are at this situation. Looking at what the government has been able to do in the last couple of days, the maize flour is coming down. We have the government-to-government fuel deal that is supposed to bring down the cost of fuel and subsequently the cost of living. I would like you to touch on that. Should government be given time? Because they've talked about mandamanos after Ramadan.
I think first and foremost, we don't want to relate mandamano to Ramadan. Ramadan is a very holy month that we pray. I think
that's why they said after
Ramadan, we are so close to it.
Yes.
They have not respected it earlier on. We thank him for pronouncing, at least saying that the last 10 days we will wait. But the first 2 days of Ramadan is when mandamano began. And therefore, that is just a hypocritical way of putting things. Because if you really respect religion, if you really respect people who fast the whole day just because of their God, and Kenyans are God-fearing nation, you wouldn't have actually done that mandamano. You would have waited until the Ramadan ends, and then you start Ramadan. We would have maybe joined him. But now, because he has spoiled it, our opposition leader, we may not join him anymore anytime soon. But the bottom line is that I think the government has come up with a very clear plan that indicates a hope of reducing the cost of living. Let's give them chance. I know if the fuel comes to the market, the intergovernment fuel agreement, and the fuel is already, I was told last week it was in Mombasa, and now soon it will be in the market, and the price of a liter of petrol becomes 100 shilling, production will also reduce in the industries. Electricity will reduce. A lot of things, a lot of goodies is in the horizon. I think the best thing for us at this point is to give the government of His Excellency Dr. William Ruto chance to showcase on how best he will going to work out on issues that have been raised. We understand. But the thing I don't understand is, I don't think if opening a server will going to help reduce the cost of living, because we don't understand how best that will go into. So let's use that as maybe issues related to electoral reform, and that has already been taken to Parliament, and those parliamentarians will go into discuss. But in terms of common man's problem, cost of living issues related to common, cost of living, I think the president has taken the right direction with his team. Let's give him time, and we think also God has blessed it. We have got rain also, that also contributes higher. If the drought will have persisted, it will have been very difficult for this country to actually think of reducing any cost of living. Now we are having a lot of instability in the neighboring countries. Sudan has just popped up with civil, what do we call it, war, and that will going to have adverse effect on many things that this region would have benefited if there was peace. IDPs, refugees are not a very good thing, because they will have to go into the neighboring countries. They will have to utilize the same resources with the neighboring countries. There will be a lot of interest in that particular place. Insecurity will also occur in the host countries. So quite a number of things are going on. We pray for Sudan to have peace, but I think the bottom line is that for us to improve our economy, for us to improve the living standard of our Kenyans, and for us to cut the cost of living, let's give the government chance for a period, so that we are able to say we have given you significant duration that you will have fixed the issues of the historical issues that currently being referred to from the previous government. You know, when you're given sufficient, like PS mentioned, we are dealing with the budget of the previous government, which is very true, because if you put a budget and you are not the one who is going to fund it, then it becomes difficult for you to fund it when you pick it in between there. So I think as from June, when the budget is put in place for 2023-2024, we expect a lot of changes, and we expect a lot of development projects to be shrinked for this country to actually pick up on basic things first. So that's basically what I will have said. Time is needed for the government to reflect on what they are doing so that they can make a difference.
Indeed, and thank you for noting that the Sudan war is, of course, going to cause a ripple effect in the country. 3,000 Kenyans who live there are being evacuated. These are people who had jobs, had their businesses, and now they have to come back to the country.
Absolutely.
P.S. I'm looking at the situation that we are in. We are just from COVID, drought, the recession. How do we promote our products? And we have very young people who have some very brilliant ideas.
Yes, I go across the country and I'm amazed by the things that Kenyans are able to do. I go to Karioko here, I see young people making beautiful bags, belts, shoes. So we have a lot of potential. One of the areas that we want to promote as a country is that we want young people in manufacturing, because I think that as a country, we actually don't lack money to manufacture. What we lack is that we have not prioritized manufacturing. If you see anybody putting up a 10-story building in Kiambu, that's somebody who can do a factory. But we have not prioritized it. So one of the things, and you see, manufacturing is really production, and it creates jobs. There is no country in the world that has developed without manufacturing. So you only become a developed world because you are able to manufacture, and a factory is the only place where you can employ 5,000 people. And as Kenyans, we want to promote that buy Kenyan, because every time you import something from outside, you actually export a job. So if the only way we can build Kenya is for us to be proud of our products, to be proud of what the young people are doing, and we're also asking Kenyans that have small amounts of money that we are going to make it easier for you to manufacture. You don't have to buy land, you don't have to build your factory. We'll build it for you. We'll provide you with electricity, with water. You as just to get the factory and get in. So want the young people to do that. About a month ago, I visited a young man in Bungoma who was doing milling of maize, and he's selling nearly 300,000 shillings a day. This is a 29-year-old, and in this country, we have created a situation where everybody wants to look for a job. I think that we can be more productive. So we want to encourage people that the only way we resolve our issues of unemployment is for us really to focus on manufacturing, and we can start small. Don't think. I think in this country, when you think of manufacturing, people think of big things. They think of Mia's sugar. They think of a lot of money. We are saying we can go into small manufacturing and build it up. That's how everybody has built it. If you look at China 20 years ago, they were almost where we are. But focus. Now we are importing from them. We need to, and as I've said, government is now going to tax those imports in such a way that we make it unfavorable for you to import, so that we can promote our own young people that want to go into manufacturing. So my take is that I want to create at least 300 small manufacturers every year for the next 5 years across the country through this Viwanda Mashinani and also any other efforts that we can have, so that we really get ourselves into this manufacturing space.
And because I'm also very passionate about a lot of things that youth, I will be following you to check where we are, and especially when it comes to the Viwanda Mashinani, because I think that is quite a noble gesture from the government. Dr. Mutunga, finally, kindly wrap it up for us.
Thank you very much. The PS has spoken very well, and I would like to launch the issue of going across the country and initiating these local level manufacturing units. If you go to China, they do not have manufactured goods waiting in stores to be sold. They have an outlet, which is a display outlet, where you just pick what you want, and then you order the quantity that you want. Then on the back end, they go and manufacture that quantity for you in a record time. 1 week, 5 days, 4 days. That is what is ideal manufacturing in my very considered opinion. So when we get many Kenyans engaged in this kind of activity, then we are going to create even more jobs, and we are going to stimulate development at the very local level. The size of holding is really not an issue, but it becomes an issue when it comes to cost implications. But let's start somewhere where we know people have been engaged in it. And then we will be able to also structure out the raw materials. That's an issue that you need to consider very carefully. Because like, if I may be very specific on a natural system, we have not consolidated our production system in a way that we can guarantee a lot of raw materials over time. So even if you go to steel making, they must buy a lot of material to be waiting. That's one of the things that I think is really going to help us out if we have these industrial parks. On the other hand, there's something called investor confidence. And Maandamano does not go with investor confidence. It's like oil and water. Investors will basically be advised by their countries not to step into Kenya.
Yeah.
If you are likely to have your store raided and everybody walk away with whatever it is that your wares, then you will not risk, because most of the money is costly money. It's money that is probably secured from some source at a certain interest rate. On the other hand, Kenya has great opportunity at this particular point in time, especially in the context of selling within Africa. If we can open up that market, African market is quite large. What we need is to believe in our products. And that can happen if we as countries, because under the African Union, there is the NEPAD initiative, which basically brings African ends of states together to think through this. It can be permit from there to the people, and we can focus on buying our own national products to build our country. Like buy Kenya, build Kenya. And we are not inferior in terms of producing some of these issues, some of these products. If you look at belts that are producing, the shoes that are producing, we are actually doing very well. All we need is to love our products as people. So I would like to tell Kenyans to actually like their products.
Okay.
It is important that we focus in that direction.
Thank you. Well said. I have been with three distinguished scholars, beginning from my immediate left, Dr. John Mutunga, who is the MP Tigania East and also the chairman
Tigania
West. I beg your pardon. Tigania West, and he is also the chairman of the Agriculture Committee at the National Assembly. Just next to him, we had Dr. Juma Mukwana, who is the PS for industrialization. Thank you so much for joining us. And just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a policy and governance expert, and also a medic. That is why you are so passionate about doctors not getting paid. But exactly, that's where we wrap it up. But the take home is that the youth should check out for what the government is doing in terms of industrialization, over 600 million in a fund that will be established in the next couple of months. And of course, the Viwanda Mashinani is a project that will be a game changer in the country, if you ask me. Remember, buy Kenya, build Kenya. That's where we put a cap on the state of the nation on this hour. On the second hour, we are looking at road traffic and more or less on the accidents part of it, because over 3,000 people die on our roads every year, and road accident has jumped all the way to the third leading cause of death in Kenya. I have the experts themselves. What are we not doing? That is a discussion we'll be having in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having. The first time I'm having 3 doctors in my set. Thank you so much. I think I have your number. Can I? Let me just call you. I think I have.
every night. To me, you're a world.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the Hustler Fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Wewe nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kile umefanya. Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini? So alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
Hapa hizo na lori. Repeat. Hapa hizo na lori. Bia wewe.
Kini piga magoti. Panta. Lori. Chake.
Ngoja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa pale exactly 5 minutes enda. That's the maximum time they're going to go serious. Go serious.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
If you need it, you should ask in advance. You can't just borrow it whenever you want. I'm sorry, I can't. I can't lend it out.
Listen to me. Sit down.
Let go of my hair right now. Let go of my hair first.
Apologize. Say you're sorry. Don't dare take my food. If you continue to hesitate, I have to leave.
What do you mean you're leaving?
My wife will also
Hey, stop calling me your wife. Excuse me, I want the
Caramel
milk tea to be
toast.
hot. I really want to throw this at you.
Because of me, he didn't know you were Jenny, and you pretended not to like him. Now he finally knows who you are, but you push him away because of me. You want me to feel guilty forever?
She lost her son?
The boy just disappeared while she was wounded, and they left her for dead.
Why don't you escape? Go away from here. Away from Milena and from everything that harms you. If you don't do it now, my dear.
Oh, Fermina.
Now, I didn't even have to ask for your hand because you were practically given to me.
I just need your help, Professor. I need you to help me get over what I am feeling.
Those who are talking. Caicedo and Jairo.
I should have known.
Welcome back to KBC News Check, and on this hour we are looking at road safety and of course and also lack of it on our roads. If you look at the last 3 weeks, we have lost over 30 people due to road accidents, and unfortunately the statistics show that 50% of all those people who die are innocent pedestrians. And this year alone, allow me to just have a look at the statistics. January to March, 1,055 lives lost compared to 1,128 cases last year. So we have a decline of about 6.5% in the 3 months ending March. Could this be a proof of campaigns and road safety working? Well, that is also a discussion we're going to be having. Allow me first of all to introduce my panelists, and beginning from my immediate left, David Kiari Njoroge, who is the chairman of the Road Safety Association of Kenya. It's been a while.
Yes.
The last time it's a long time.
Long time.
This discussion and the conversation is quite on time.
Thank you.
Just next to him we have Edward Gitonga. Edward Gitonga is the chairman, Speed Governors and Road Safety Association of Kenya. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Thank you very much.
First things first, Bwana Kiari.
Yeah.
Looking at the many accidents that we've had in the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Most of them involving school buses.
Yeah.
And mostly, these buses are ferrying people from one place to another for functions. We have ratio, there are people going for burials, people going to other functions.
Yes.
The law is very clear on public service vehicles.
Yes.
School buses don't fall under this category, but we see buses each and every weekend ferrying people from one place to another. I would like you to touch on that.
Let me say thank you very much, and particularly for calling us during this time, because things are not very good.
Yes.
That is a fact. We can see how we have lost people. This is something we have tried to look, we have tried to discuss about it, we have written so many letters, but I want to say, I want to thank the current administration, that the government which is there, because now we have started doing things which we were not doing previously. You know, when you talk of road safety, it is not a one day something and then tomorrow there is a change. No, it's something which need collective responsibility for all stakeholders. And we have started it well with the new government, the new administration. We have been in December, I was very vocal, complaining that we needed to change the board of NTSA, and for sure thank you for the CS, because that has happened. The board, we have a new board member, and I think now we will start seeing changes. You can see yourself that there's a lot of difference between the CS who is currently there and the other CS who was there, who has never discussed about anything to do with people dying on our roads.
Okay, let's assume that was a previous regime.
Yeah.
Let us look at
now now we have already given why. Why do we have these things happening today? And why is it buses and lorries? Because this is something we had predicted. We had said that we will start experiencing buses and lorries roaring. One, it was very clear. These vehicles don't go for inspection. Our inspections are routine. We had corrupt inspection. We have only 17 inspection centers in this country, but when somebody is taken to a certain inspection center and there's money which is needed by the bosses, that man will not work. He will try to collect money for the bosses. I think when I say this, it's not something I'm just saying, because you remember there was a clip from BBC who came all the way from London and came and gave us the situation at the inspection center, where they took a vehicle which was not supposed to be on the road and the vehicle passed. So that is what is eating us. Yes.
I'm still on the buses.
Yes.
The law is very clear.
One, first of all, PSV vehicles, they know the procedure they follow under. So buses, school buses are for school children, not ferrying passengers. But now we see what is happening with the schools. They are hiring these vehicles, particularly on weekends. And that is why you see these accidents happening on weekends involving the school buses. You will find that maybe they were going for ratio, they were going for other activities, and those buses are supposed to be in school because they are purposely for carrying children, not PSV. A PSV vehicle, even a driver who drives a PSV vehicle, there are parameters. There is what he's supposed to have. He's supposed to have a PSV badge, a driving license, but that does not fall on a driver who is driving a school bus. So we are saying that trend must stop.
All right, indeed, because we have lost a lot of people when it comes to buses being hired for private functions. Edward, statistics show that majority of accidents are due to human error. And most of the human error pertains to the speed that we drive. And your association, Speed Governors and Road Safety Association of Kenya, could the speed governors and limiters, because now we also explained the limiter, the difference between the limiter and the governor, could this be contributing to the road crashes that we are experiencing in the country?
Yeah, as you begin.
What are you doing to check them? Because I have seen a number of vehicles zoom past you, and they are PSV vehicles, which are supposed to be not going more than 80 kilometers per hour.
Thank you very much. I want to begin by your opening remarks that last year, a period that you covered of 3 months, there is a decline of 6 point something.
6.5.
Yeah. I want to come to the point. Why the decline? We are the authorized association, Speed Governor and Road Safety Association, mandated by Ministry of Transport to mitigate government effort in all matters of road safety. And that's where we come in. You cannot remove the component of speed governors on the road and then you think that business will be as usual. In last year, when the fatalities rose up, it is in record by July, we were not working as we are supposed to, because there is no one man that is a giant by himself. You got to work with other people. It had reached a point whereby we were feeling it's like we had been pushed off. And that led to a lot of losses. Last year we lost 6,000 people.
6,000.
And in a term of in the past 3 years, we have lost 18,000 people.
On the roads?
On the road. And they maimed over 50,000. The reason is the buck stops at the end. Who is supposed to bring down carnage on the road? As I sit here today, I want to put into your information that when we realized that working with the Minister of Transport was not bearing fruit, we are the people who lobbied for the formation of NTSA. I have my manual, which indicates so. And the NTSA was formed. We have worked very well with the NTSA from year 2008, when our numbers were too low. In fact, we had gone too low to allowed 1,900. To me, that was still a big number. You check on the years that the speed governors are working appropriately on the road, then the numbers goes down. But right now, we are talking over people who want to introduce their own rules through the back door. The standard which guides our roads is KS 2295, which has worked from 2019. And when this standard was introduced, the process was introduced in a haphazard way. And therefore, that's why you are seeing the numbers are rising. Let me state here, we had brought down the crashes of the buses, the 14-seater, 18-seater, to a level that there was even none. And I want to give an example. During December festive season, it is the worst month. We lose about 600 people. But last December, we lost 130 people. We got to ask yourself, what has changed in the last 10 years? We started down with the NTSA. That was in July. And in October last year, we came up with something we called choke therapy or a recall. Let all the vehicles go back to speed governor vendors. So that whoever did not do the work, they may repeat the job. And when that was done, you check on the record, October, November, December, and January. The figure fluctuated so low. So, all of a sudden, somebody says the records are no longer important. He wants to bring his own governor. Single-handedly. Right now, we are having a big crisis.
Maybe for the interest of Kenyans, we would like to know exactly, is it the government that decided that we have one person to bring in those governors?
No. What I'm saying, the people who supply speed governor go a process. They are vetted by KEPS, they are vetted by CMT, Chief Mechanical Engineer, they are approved, and then you get a certificate from NTSA. We have 56 vendors right now. But right now, only 2 or 3 governors are passing through inspection. Somebody with the financial gluttony feels he wants to bring his one governor or 2 governors in Kenya. And now he scatters the process.
So are you saying that we are witnessing the numerous accidents that we are witnessing now? Because more or less, when it comes to the speed fast, is that there are people who are circumventing the law to ensure that their vehicles are on the road without the prescribed speed limiters or governors?
There are no better words than what you have said. That is the...
All right. You have been mandated to look at this road safety in Kenya. What exactly are you doing to ensure that we reverse this so that there is no tampering of limiters, or there is no... there are no limiters which are not supposed to be on the vehicles?
In fact, the current speed limiter is a wholesome speed limiter. You tamper, it is reporting back.
But I've seen a lot of
laxity,
which are quite fast.
Get me right. Laxity, where we are just investors in one end of we have made factories. In fact, some of us have ditched a lot of cash to have factories to manufacture speed governors. But now, these vehicles are not going to the inspection. I have told you from October, when the vehicle, all of them visited inspection, there was a total decline. Yeah? The speed limiter now, at KS 2295, you remove the limiter, it reports back to the vendor or NTSA. You do overspeed, it reports. So it's a wholesome speed limiter. The new speed, the speed limiter we are talking about has 3 components: limiting the vehicle, location of the vehicle, and if you tamper, the speed governor should relay the information.
All right, we're going to come to the speed limiters in a while. Wanakiario, do you share part of the responsibility looking at the road carnage that we are seeing on the roads? Because you've been charged with the mandate of, you have an association that looks into the road safety. Or where should we put the blame? Because we cannot have this number.
Surely, let me say we are in charge, and ours is to make sure that we report what we see. We make sure that we work with the ministry. We have to work with NTSA and work with the police. So today I want to tell you very clearly, as he's trying to talk about the speed governor, the law, that is the act, that is 217, which brought speed governor. The speed governor was only supposed to limit the speed. But now, during, there was a time we changed this standard, 2018, we wanted it to limit and transmit whatever is on the road so that we can avoid this accident before it happened. Because these stories, because we could get the information of what was happening on the road, but now sometimes it is too late. People have already died. So even if you have that information, it is not helping. That is where we decided, why can't we add transmission in it? So that if a vehicle is overspeeding, before it causes an accident, then the NTSA are supposed to see on their server, and the vendor is supposed to report, because it's something which he can see that this vehicle is misbehaving. If you tamper with that speed governor, the standard is very clear. That information should go to the server. But unfortunately, the NTSA did not have a server. But now they have finished their server. Now the controversial is, now that their server is finished, they don't want the 56 vendors to transmit their gadgets to NTSA. They want to bring a third party and the third party, already they have given them a lot of money, a third party who is not there even by the standard, and the law does not allow anybody, and it is very clear, NTSA has no mandate of testing a speed governor. The speed governor should be tested by KEBS and CMT. So now they have taken that work, and not NTSA as a whole, and we want to put it very clear. The leadership of NTSA is one thing, and that one we have said, and we keep on saying, because as we keep on speaking of these things, we keep on losing people. Today, every week, we see a bus killing, a lorry killing. You have seen these things happening. But instead of us having a sitting asking ourselves, why are these buses killing our people? Now the discussion, if you go to NTSA, how do we sell these tracking devices in these vehicles? Tracking devices are not in the law. Are not anchored in the law. Because even if you see where the vehicle is, and the vehicle is going to kill, what do you do? But it was, even if a mad driver gets into a vehicle and the driver is drunk, the speed cannot go beyond 80. So what we need, and what we have done as the Road Safety Association, we are trying to bring, we have tried, we brought Speed Governors Association with us. We were able to get the matatu owners, and we had a discussion, we had a meeting with all of them, and that is the time we agreed with even the matatus, and they did that. Matatus were brought back to the Speed Governor vendors to make sure that with free, it was free, free we had discussed with them. They did it free. And they were checking these vehicles, and that is where you see there was, in December, the festive season, we did not have any police on the road, or the NTSA on the road, but carnage came down. Why? Because stakeholders could sit together. That is what we've been fighting for. We want stakeholders to sit together. Even Michuki to succeed, he brought all stakeholders together. But now the leadership we have in NTSA, they are ignoring everything. Like me, I'm 18 years experience on the road safety. And somebody has just been employed by the government, 3 years. And you come, you know everything. You don't want to listen. And we are telling them, unless stakeholders sit here and agree on the way forward, you cannot take all the police on the road to say they are checking on the road. There is nothing. The carnage will still continue.
But if we are able, it's like now we are shifting blame to government agencies. Is that the case?
Well, let me tell you, we are not even blaming because we said we don't want to blame game. We are saying where the problem is. We have already identified the problem. And the question is, why is it a bus kills people? What is the reason given? It lost control. The other one killed, what did they say? That the brakes failed. Those stories of brake failure and losing control are brought by these vehicles not going for inspection. If a vehicle in Kenya, that is law, a vehicle, all vehicles which are heavy commercial and a PSV must go once in a year in an inspection center, whereby the inspectors should check the brakes system, how it is fast. And if you go to inspection centers, you'll find there is even a kahil, which is somewhere, whereby they test these brakes very well. Today, I want to tell you for sure, many people don't take vehicles for inspection. It's about money. You just give money, the inspection is brought. Something they did which was very bad, they removed the sticker on the screen to show that this vehicle has been inspected. They removed that. Why? Because 3 years from the previous government, NTSA was removed on the road. They were taken back to the office. To do what? Just to do police. You cannot say you are going to make policies for a full entire authority just to be in offices doing policing. That these people are removed. And what did they do now? NTSA realized that now they have removed us on the road. How do we eat? Because we must eat. The police will never see these vehicles. They will never know whether the vehicle has gone for inspection or not.
The mandate of vehicle inspection is only NTSA, right?
It is solely NTSA.
All right.
And we have, and you see now, they are saying, it is very clear. When our people died in Embu, these old people are going for money in Embu. And NTSA said clearly that this vehicle which have killed these people was unroadworthy. 2 years, it has never gone for inspection. But the vehicle had already killed our people. What were the police saying? How do we know that this vehicle was unroadworthy? You only know if you have that sticker. Even if you go to Britain, go to America, a vehicle goes for inspection, the sticker must be there for enforcer to know that this vehicle has been inspected. But if you don't put that sticker and you say it is online, how many police have smartphones? There are places even you don't have internet.
Yes. Sure.
That is a problem.
Edward, looking at all the speed governors installed on public service vehicles, can you authoritatively say that they meet the quality standards, they've been passed by KEBS, and they do their job as they should?
They are not, but this is the reason. I have talked about the gluttonous financial appetite with some leaders. When the governors were being approved by the Ministry of Transport, the minister, we only had around 25 governors. Therefore, the system was able to sustain itself. But you talk over people who want even to bring their own governors, but yet they are the ones in the office. That was very tragic. You are talking of somebody has imported like 20,000 units, which is not even meeting the standard, but because it belongs to who or who, those vehicles go to the inspection and they are all passed. That's why we had came up with the recall, so that we make sure that the vehicles that we check, they are meeting the standard. And far and wide, we proved, actually we were called even by NTSA to be congratulated that you people have done something on the rules. So what we want to say is let the standard be the threshold to everyone. If it is the speed governor, it is the standard which is the threshold. Let not be that this governor belongs to who or who.
Have you witnessed cases of drivers tampering on the device?
Of course, yes. They are not tampering, they plug off the governors. Because the governor we are talking about, if it is tampered with, it should send a signal to both the offender. For example, the bus that killed 40 people in the Rakanidi, we had already even in writing done a report to NTSA motor vehicle engineer, and we told him this bus is doing a lot of speed on the road. And what happened? They just buried the letter. In 2 weeks' time, the bus load had killed all those people. So what we are saying, the governor as it is now, it is the best unit world over, not only in Kenya. The technology has been borrowed by Nigeria. We are South Africa now is borrowing our standard. Rwanda has done the same, Uganda has done the same, and Ethiopia.
But the standards that those guys are going to do, they are actually implementing exactly what they are talking about. Because at the end of the day, we cannot even be the light for African countries to copy or to borrow, and then unfortunately we do not follow to the letter the laws that we've put to ensure that there is road safety in our roads.
Yeah, the outcry is so much. The outcry right now is so much because of what has happened. We have highlighted this. And we were not even the custodians. When we check properly, we are not the custodians of the vehicles on the road. What we do, actually we have a link, even with the NTSA. Wherever we check, we send emails, and that's how we have worked harmoniously. What I'm saying is, if one person scores the Association of Speed Governor, we don't want to name names here, and even the Association of Road Safety, which has worked. Like my association was formed in 2008, where there was a lot of trouble. And then a leader stands up and even tries to insinuate that we are blockers. You realize that is not a good thing, and it is not called for. So all we want to see right now, let me also say this statement today. Why the increase that we had predicted, our former regime did so well in road infrastructure. You realize that all the roads are very friendly to drive on high speed. And we had got this, and we said we can only mitigate this through the speed limiting. So all the roads, the former regime did very well, and that's why, in fact, even now I am lobbying, all vehicles, PSV, lorries, must get back to the limited speed. Why? You can imagine now opening the superhighways with those speeds. high speed, what will happen? These vehicles will load day in, day out.
All right, you really acknowledge that indeed there are some drivers who tamper with the device itself. What are some of the measures that you, as organizations that have been charged to ensure that there is road safety in the country? There are drivers who tamper with the devices. You can see a PSV just zoom past you, driving at over 100 kilometers per hour and supposed to do 80 kilometers per hour. What happens to these drivers?
Let me explain. There is a standard. The standard we have today, nobody can tamper with that speed governor. Because if you tamper with it, if you remove it, it is sending the signal that have been removed. From this vehicle, this wire has been cut. But this standard is not followed because people want to make money. And I've told you, we don't have speed governors on road. We are having transmitters transmitting. If I don't know whether I can read for you the Traffic Act Cap 403, the traffic rules, then you want a few. Yeah, so that you understand. Speed governors for public service vehicles and commercial vehicles with the tare weight of over 308 kgs, that is 304 kilograms, pursuant to Rule 41A, stroke 1B2 of the traffic rule, the Cabinet Secretary for the Transport and Infrastructure approves speed governors conforming to Kenya Bureau of Standard specifications. That is where we are lacking every day, listed in the schedule to be fitted.
But indeed,
so it is a cabinet, and even that cabinet should not approve a speed governor which has not been approved by KEBS and CMTE. Today we are talking of a gadget which is fitted, and it has not gone to KEBS, it has not gone to CMTE. They are coming up with their own standard, and then that is what they are fitting. So the standard is there, but when you ask them, they tell you they are using KS 22 2018. And for your information, we have sat as a Road Safety Association and KEBS and CMTE, and now the standard. We do not want to change the standard because the Matatu people have been complaining always that after every 5 years you bring a new gadget. So to the Matatu people, it is a business whereby the speed governor are doing because they want to change these speed governors after every 5 years. When these governors were changed, I was among the people who promised the Matatu people that no any other gadget will be introduced in the market. Today they are introducing it behind the scene. They are calling the federation, giving them free governors for their vehicles, forgetting that their members will buy.
Okay, and indeed, it's a good thing that we have dealt a lot on the speed itself, because there are a number of factors that really don't even have to be on your desk as Road Safety Association of Kenya, and especially if there are bad roads.
Yes.
Then there's nothing that you can do about that. But what we can be able to do, we are not doing it. There's a good thing that you've mentioned. I don't know whether it's Carrie or Edward. You've mentioned on how the police were taken off the road.
Yes.
The roadblocks were eliminated, of course, because of corruption and other factors.
Yeah.
But somebody would argue if it's a school bus that is passing through a police check unit, it will be flagged. If it's a drunk driver, maybe you can be given a breathalyzer. We had the alcohol blow. These are some things that maybe can be able to assist us in the road safety. Should they be back, the cops and the breathalyzer?
We have said it very clear, and we have been fighting for it. When NTSA were removed on the road, it is only this association which went to court. And remember, it was the directive of the president. But I managed to go to court and try to show the president that whoever advised you wrongly, because numbers were down, these numbers will raise, and it is for sure the numbers have raised. But we want to thank this administration, the government which now came up took again NTSA from the Ministry of Interior, they are back to the Ministry of Transport. Now we are telling them we want to see them on the road. And one, I want to tell you before I finish, because I don't want to mention names, but we have put it very clear as a Road Safety Association. We have written a letter to the ministry that we want to do peaceful demonstration to NTSA to make sure that the top people are removed, because we cannot continue working with them because people are dying and they are just thinking about how they are going to make money. So we gave them 2 weeks and for sure we are going to do demonstration. First, we want the DG out.
All right, and as we wrap up, the PS Transport Mohammed Daha yesterday visited the NTSA offices and control center to assess the progress made in speed monitoring. As major players in the sector, are all your gadgets transmitting data to the NTSA?
Somebody.
Now, there is a problem. We were in the progress of coming up with the best formula of transmission. But here comes, they have, the NTSA they've had one vendor. She is a vendor, and she is the one in charge of transmission. We said we are rioting on that, because if she was a vendor, let her do speed governance. If she was the one to oversee the progress of transmission, let her see that. But you cannot talk of a vendor. She is a competitor with me. There is a conflict of interest. They never listened to that. We went for the last meeting with them. It was very volatile. And all we are saying, there is no one vendor who is going to oversee. In fact, I understand that her tender is all the way to November, and that is why they are hastening the process. If they continue in the behavior they are behaving of a vendor overseeing the others, we are going to down the tools. That one I can tell you for a fact. We will say that now the one governor they are in favor of. Continue working. But we also need to have this point put across. The vehicle that we take care of, the outcry is because of the mass killing of the buses right now. And we had highlighted. Let's also get to the bottom of the problem. Private vehicles are killing people in mass. You talk of the 1,000 people we lost in the last 3 months, over 700.
The private cars?
Private cars. We went with him in Gilgil when two Nissan landed on a lorry that was stationary. We found over 300 vehicles that had unloaded within a span of 2 months. They were still in the station. So let's get to the bottom of where the problem is. The private vehicles. Number 2 is the border. And the number 3 is the pedestrian. Lammed upon, they were just reported as a number. These are the leading 3. In fact, the PSV vehicles are just number 4 or 5. So let's not concentrate on just one area. And also the segment of why the buses, he has highlighted very well, that they are no longer going to inspection. If you go to Nairobi inspection, even do your own survey, you never get all the Mombasa buses going to the inspection. None of them goes to the inspection. They are taking the barua wherever they are.
All right. Indeed. In a minute, kindly speak to Kenyans. I decided to narrow the conversation to road safety and especially on PSV because I believe that this is exactly what I'm going to get from the leaders themselves of the association themselves. I would like you to talk to Kenyans.
Before I tell them anything,
in a minute, because we are running out of time.
I want to tell you that PS should know that governors can transmit in NTSA server, but not through somebody else. Third party, it is not there. Even in the law, even the standard says very clear, it is the KEBS and CMT to make sure that these governors are transmitting to NTSA server. KEBS is a government body, CMT is a government body. They are the people mandated by law to make sure that these governors transmit to NTSA server.
CMT is Chief Mechanical and Technical Engineer?
Okay. Those are the people mandated by law. So NTSA do well, just take the protocols of the server to KEBS and CMT so that all the vendors can transmit, because the jokes they are doing and that business, we are calling it monkey business, we have gone to court. Maybe tomorrow there will be an order stopping that transmission. So
All right, indeed. Thank you so much. I've been speaking to David Kiari Njoroge, who is the Chairman, Road Safety Association of Kenya, and Edward Gitonga, with the Speed Governors and Road Safety Association of Kenya. They are laying it bare that they claim that NTSA has a lot to do, and they talk about in sync. They should work together to ensure that we do not have these road accidents, and especially when it comes to public service vehicles. And we had narrowed down that to exactly PSV vehicles. There are a number of issues in the transport industry, including bad roads, including also bad policies that we have. But at the end of the day, they say the buck stops with the government and especially NTSA. Thank you so much for joining us. Now I'm giving the baton back to the Swahili desk with Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. Thank you indeed so much for joining us. I'm Ben Troy Njue. Lensa Odingo has been on sign language interpreter for this live broadcast.
She lost her son?